The person at, no, at the condo, right?
Okay, at this time, we will call this meeting to order. May I please have a roll call?
Trustee DeWar. Here. Trustee Truttschel.
Here.
Trustee Pfeiffer.
Here.
Trustee Bancroft.
Here.
Trustee Walschlager. Trustee Connor.
Here.
We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Trustee Truttschel.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was going to do that.
At this time, if anybody would like to speak in public comments, please step towards the podium. Do we have anybody on Zoom? No. Seeing that there's no one that wants to speak in public comments, we'll move to our first item on the agenda, which is the presentation of the 2022 financial statements and audit results by Wendi under the CPA partner at Baker Tilly.
Thank you. This is
Nope, you're good.
It's on now.
so you should have received, I think Ryan just handed out the two bound documents. Other two documents at a relatively high level. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about the opinion, and then I'll switch to some number information. Included in your audited statements is the one portion of the audit that's ours as your auditors, and that's the audit opinion. Included in your audited statements, we issued a clean, unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that you can obtain from us as your auditor. Accounting. Should I continue? Oh, there we go. Now I can hear myself. So again, GASB 87 changed the way leases are accounted for and really just changed your topside statements and your general fund and included an additional receivable and some unearned revenue. So again, didn't change the way you operated on a day-to-day basis. And we'll talk about another new standard that will be effective for the village at the end of the presentation. Switching gears then onto the next page of the summary is some very high-level financial information. I'm going to spend a minute talking about the very first column. The rest of the columns, I'll just hit the change in fund balance. But the first column there is your general fund. This is your day-to-day operating fund, and this is found in your audited statements on page 80 in much more detail. So please feel free to look at that at your leisure. But overall, when we look at the performance of the general fund, we look at that in comparison to budget. So when you put together your 2022 budget, even after it was amended, you budgeted to break even, essentially no modification or addition to fund balance. You ultimately, within your general fund, added $170,000 to fund balance during 2022. Your expenditures were very close to budget, but ultimately your revenues came in over budget, which contributed to that addition to fund balance. The various components of that were within your public charges for services. So this is some additional donations that were received, $30,000 more than budgeted. Additional ambulance revenue that was higher than budget by approximately $70,000. And then your rec classes also came in over budget by $37,000, and then park rentals were also over budget. So those are the largest contributing components. Overall, when you look at your expenditures, again, they came in relatively close to budget when you look at the inclusion of some designated activity, and we really don't want to do that. So overall, your expenditures came in under budget, $153,000 within your general government category. Was the largest portion, and that was contingency. You always budget contingencies, and you didn't utilize $185,000 of that. So again, general fund ended the year with a positive addition to fund balance of $170,000, ended the year at $6.1 million of fund balance. Now there's three pieces to that. A large portion, $1.4 million, is referred to as non-spendable. That is the portion that covers the deficits that currently sit within your TIFs. Until the TIFs swing to a positive fund balance, that money will be set aside because really the general fund has covered those deficits. You also have 1.45 million that's assigned. Those are various pieces of items that have been set aside. This is on page 60 in your footnote, but the largest two components of that are future asset purchases and your future employee benefits. Those are the largest portion. The remaining balance, $3.3 million, that is your unassigned fund balance. That's really what you have available for working capital. You do have a policy to have set aside a minimum of 25% of your general fund revenues. And that figure, that 3.2 million, is approximately 40%. So you're in compliance with your policy and even a little bit higher. Again, that affords you some flexibility in helping cover the TIF deficits or some internal borrowing until you would decide if you wanted to go to the bond market or elsewhere. Switching gears then and looking at the next three columns, these are the three TIF funds of the village, 4, 5, and 6. The revenue categories, most of that is increment that comes into those TIF districts. You'll note expenditures are relatively minimal. TIF 6 had a little bit higher of expenditures. That was a developer payment that was made during 2022. You'll note also that there was some money transferred from TIF 6 to TIF 4 of roughly $427,000. So overall, you'll note TIF 4 ended the year at an improved deficit position of $81,000 deficit. Fund balance, and again, keeping in mind that those are all covered by general fund balance for the time being. Then the last column presented here, the debt service fund, 1.8 million of revenue. That's mainly taxes. You levy a tax, and then you make principal and interest payments on. Oh boy, big one. You make principal and interest payments on village debt of 1.8 million. You did have some transfers in from the other funds that came in from your impact fee fund, ended the year with a small decrease in fund balance of $27,000 and fund balance at $135,000 at the end of the year. That is all restricted. It can only be used for debt service purposes until the debt of the village is paid in whole. Turning to the next page of the handout, just again, a couple more funds of the village. The first one presented is the Village Capital Project Fund. You'll note very high expenditures, mainly within the area of road projects within the village. So you used 1.4 million of fund balance, ended the year at 4.5 million. That 4.5 has a portion of unspent bond proceeds in it, which is the 3.3 million. So that pulls out as restricted. It's restricted for the purpose for which it was borrowed. The remaining portion, 1.2, can be used for additional village projects. The next column is your corporate reserve. Again, a small amount of revenue. Did have some transfers in of $402,000. Most of that came from the general fund, $375,000 of that. You spent $438,000. That was mainly on fire, police, and highway vehicles, and then the self-contained breathing apparatus of $240,000 during the year. So that fund used fund balance of $19,000 and ended the year at almost $1.5 million of fund balance. The last column that's presented here, there are two funds, or I'm sorry, there are 2 pages within your audited statements that detail out that non-major. That's on page 92 and 93. But if, just to put it in perspective, this is your refuse and garbage fund, your impact fee fund, your library fund, your ARPA funds. Again, much more detail in your statements, but those funds in total had $680,000 of revenue. Most of that is refuse and garbage and impact fee collections. Those funds spent $619,000, and again, in those similar funds are the major expenses. You had a transfer out of the $28,000. That was the amount that went into the debt service fund I mentioned previously. So overall, those remaining funds of the village added $33,000 to fund balance and ended the year at $989,000. $901,000 of that is restricted. So there's certain funds on those pages that are restricted. So those would be your library. All funds of a library are restricted. Your impact fees, those are restricted for the purpose for which those impact fees were developed. And then there's a small portion of that 901, which is ARPA money. I will mention that you do have unspent ARPA money as of the end of 2022, roughly $975,000. That is not in fund balance. That sits on your balance sheet in cash and it kind of in a liability section and gets recognized as revenue as you spend it. So in future years when you incur the expenses, that will come through as an offsetting revenue. So just want to mention that that's not included in there. Switching gears then, talking about the last three funds of the village. These are the water and sewer utilities and your internal service fund. The water utility, you'll note 3 rows down in the table, added $132,000 to net position. That's in comparison to roughly $325,000 in the previous year. So down a little bit. Main reason for that was there were some fluctuations in revenue, not significant, but the expenses were up roughly $200,000 over the previous year. Those came through in the areas of salaries, engineering, and then some additional maintenance costs related to mains and services that were incurred. The water utility, again, ended the year at $13.5 million of net position. That's a very high number, so I always like to remind you, keep in mind that's not fund balance. Fund balance is very close to cash, but this is net position, so this is all your capital assets, your infrastructure, less any related debt. So it's a very large number in comparison to fund balance. I will also note that the water utility ended the year at $2.6 million of cash, and all 3 of these funds positively cash flowed. There was no use of cash during the year, so that's a very favorable end result and can be found on page 28 of your audited statements. The sewer utility, when we look at that, $287,000 added to net position. That compares to $1.1 million last year. So that's down relatively significantly. Really 3 components to that. $220,000 decrease in your regional service availability charge revenue, and then $482,000 down in the Delhart fees that are paid. In 2021, keep in mind you had many apartments, and in 2022, mostly single family. So just the makeup of the construction and that ultimately ended up in a relatively significant decrease in your revenue. Expenses also up within the sewer utility, roughly $230,000. Again, similar maintenance costs were up $60,000, salaries were up $60,000, treatment costs were up roughly $40,000. So again, all of those various components contributing to that increase. Sewer utility ended the year at $9.8 million of net position, $4.5 million in cash, and again, positively cash flowed. The last column here is your internal service fund. This is your dental fund. This accounts for revenue that comes in from the various departments. Related costs, $52,000, added roughly $7,000 to fund balance, very comparable with what it was last year, just down a couple $100. Ended the year at $241,000 of net position, and cash was $250,000. As of the end of the year. And again, all positive cash flow there. So again, very favorable result in all of the various funds of the village for 22. On the next page, just a couple other items I just want to quickly highlight. Long-term obligations of the village, $19.1 million of governmental activities. So this is village, $3.1 million of water and sewer obligations. During 2022, there was no new borrowings, so there was no debt added to the long-term obligations, and you ultimately paid down in combination, village and utilities, approximately $2 million of principal. So saw a nice decrease in your outstanding obligations. The point underneath that highlights your ability and your capacity to borrow. $87 million you can borrow, which is 5% of your equalized value. You had $19.8 million outstanding as of 12/31/22. So if you needed to, you could go to the market and borrow $67 million. On the very last page of the highlight, just a couple bullet points I've included there. This really highlights the other document that we issue as part of the audit process, which is our reporting and insights document. we really use that, we use that to communicate comments and recommendations, things that might come up as part of the audit process. We need to communicate certain points with you as part of the audit process. There's nothing new or unusual included in that letter. There's some carryover kind of best practice recommendations from previous years. Very happy to say no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. The village does a very good job making sure proper internal controls are in place to avoid having any of those type of findings. As I mentioned when I started, there is a new governmental accounting standard that the village should be aware of for 2023, similar to GASB 87, which was the accounting for leases. The next one that you need to be aware of is GASB 96, which is the accounting for subscription-based IT arrangements. And as exciting as that topic may sound, again, it really comes down to just inventorying the various subscription agreements that the village has, for examples, GIS systems, SCADA systems, space in the cloud, those type of different IT arrangements. So again, we'll work with management during 2023 to make sure the village is in compliance with that as needed, always keeping in mind materiality. On the very bottom paragraph there, I have included my direct line, my email. Happy to talk with any of you, answer any questions you may have, but I'd also be happy to answer any questions you might have now.
That was very well presented.
Thank you.
Very clear and concise and easy to understand,
you.
so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The next item that we have on the agenda is consideration of the village board minutes from the June 26, 2023 meeting.
Make a motion that we approve the village board minutes of June 26, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Does anybody have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have items related to vouchers. We have consideration of contractor's application for payment number 2 to DF Tomasini Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $71,363.50 for the 2023 utilities program.
If you recall, in 2022, we budgeted for utility program, which consists of sanitary manhole rebuild, storm inlets, fire hydrants, and water valves replacement. That was awarded to DF Tomasini. They came prior to the village board for payment number 1. Now they are looking for payment number 2. Their utility project is done, but we will still hold a retainage. So DF Tomasini is seeking payment number 2 for the sum of $71,363.50 for the 2023 utility program.
And that item is included in the number for the vouchers that's on there
That's
now,
correct.
hence us
That's
touching on
correct.
this first. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the payment to DF Tomasini in the amount of $71,363.50 for the 2023 utilities program.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payment to DF Tomasini Contractors, Inc. for $71,363.50. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of vouchers for payment in the amount of $395,391.84.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment in the amount of $395,391.84.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have actions related to licenses and permits. We have consideration of operators, bartenders licenses. Sydney Anthony, Asia Eccles, and Taylor Camroth are seeking their bartenders licenses.
Make a motion that we approve all 3 bartenders' licenses as read.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 3 bartending licenses that were applied for here at the village that are on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have a consideration of a Class A beer, Class A liquor license for the premises located at 301 East Capitol Drive, Station Hartland MB LLC. Matt Dillon, is that correct? is the agent doing business as Station Hartland MB to expire June 30th, 2024. For everybody's knowledge that would be watching in the village, this is the current Citgo station that is on Maple and Capitol. Well, we have to have a public hearing on it, so I'm sorry. So we'll, let's open up the public hearing. And don't everybody step up to the podium at once. Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing because no one's talking. So, with that, I did get a brief overview. The owner is here, the person applying for the license. When a business like this is sold, you know, one license is gonna come and get turned in after the closing, and another person will be right there to take the new license. So just letting everybody know, I don't know if it's necessarily a renewal. This is new, but it's just a continuation at the same business. But I believe that this will go down as new. Technically, on paper, it goes down as new. So just so everybody knows. But it's not new to that area to be selling anything that's being sold. So with that, with the public hearing having been held, I would consider or entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion.
Motion that we approve the Class A liquor license for Station Hartland MB for Hamat Dillon.
I'll second then.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the Class A beer, Class A liquor license for Station Hartland MB, also known in the village as the Citgo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Typically, I don't step out of line like this a little bit, but since I don't want to make you wait until the end, Mike, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the village. I think it has been an outstanding, as an owner of a business, your involvement with the bid, previous involvement with the chamber and many other organizations, fireworks, parades, all of that. It's been great to see your face in the morning, whether it's coming in for coffee. You know, it's just been really great getting to know you, and hopefully you won't stay away from Hartland, but really, it's been fun, and you ran a great business, and you really made that place better. It's very, very nice, and wish you all the best with whatever endeavors you're, you know, carrying on with.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, if you go over here.
Thank you. Dave will hold the mic for you. I don't need that. Okay, that's fine. No, first of all, thank you, Jeff. Thank you to trustees and deputy clerk, and to the chief and everybody in the room. You know, it's been great, 16 years almost, you know, and it was a vision in my life, you know, to own a business, and I got an opportunity. And I had a choice between Pewaukee and being in Hartland, so it was nice. And again, when I got the station, it was kind of challenging because I'm sure Tom knows the name that was there in town. My predecessor, the street was named after him, you know, the Young Bros Road, you know. I said, what am I doing here in this town? But, you know, with everybody's, you know, support and, you know, the community, it's just been wonderful. You know, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be first time in 47 years that I've been doing this. It's going to be tough to retire, you know. That's what my goal is as of Wednesday when Matt takes over. And I think it's going to be a great, you know, he's got pretty well known knowledge of the business and everything still to create in the town. But I appreciate everybody, you know, the support from the village, from the police department, and from the, fire department and everybody involvement over the years. You know, it was great, you know. Our name is still at the splash pad, so there's a mark on the ground over there for us, you know. But it's been wonderful. Thank you for your help and support over the years, you know. So, again, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, you've been a great business neighbor and a great friend for many years.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good
Good luck, Matt. Good
We'll
luck.
see you soon. We now have a second reading of a bill for an ordinance number 06262023, an ordinance creating 46-090, 46-910, and 46-911 of the Village of Hartland Code of Ordinances regulating hotels and motels, and amending 46-1, 46-46, 46-469, 46-491, 46-494, 46-516, 46-519, and 66-14 of the Village of Hartland ordinances.
Just a reminder, this is the second reading. This is just to create and allow hotels and motels within the village. I'm going to see if the attorney will come to the next meeting because that's when the final approval would be. If you have any questions on the ordinance, I would ask that you email myself and the attorney before that.
Wonderful. That second reading is in the books. Now we have consideration for Hartland Fire Department for striker service contract.
So our previous contract with Stryker expired this year. That was service and maintenance of the cots in the ambulances. So our old ambulance or backup ambulance now just had the power load cot, where the new ambulance 51, the new 51 and the old 51 will have the power load system. So that's not only the cot, but it's also a system in the back of the ambulance that actually hydraulically lifts the patient into the ambulance so we don't have to do it. So this contract, as you can see, it covers pretty much everything on the cot. If something breaks and we call them, the service trip is included in this, and pretty much all of the parts. In the past, we've had 0 issues with them getting out within the day that we call them and having it fixed and back up and running for us without a problem. So the previous contract was around $3,000 per year, but with now 2 power load systems, that price has gone up to approximately $5,758.58. And again, that covers everything, batteries, and any service calls we have, plus they come out once a year and go through the whole system and make sure everything is working properly.
Just a heads up, if this is approved, it goes in as a prepaid item. So each year for the next 5 years, $57.58 will be deducted from the budget. So though we may pay it all up front, it gets split over 5 years.
Chief, do you have an estimate of what it would have cost for the things that have been done on the power cot over the course of the last term?
So batteries are the biggest expense. They're about $1,500 a piece, and they last maybe a year and a half. So just from being charged and constantly being charged and everything. So that's the biggest expense. We've had no real major issues. We've had small pieces break here and there, and we've called them and they've come out, and we've actually never had to put a cot out of service, because something was broke on it that wouldn't secure it or make it safe for our patients. So,
Chief, all the equipment is Stryker manufactured equipment?
correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Chief.
Need a motion?
Yeah, someone else. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve the Hartland Fire Department striker service contract for $28,792.90 over 5 years.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the fire department's contract with Stryker service contract for a total amount for the 5-year contract of $28,792.90. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have a consideration of the sale of the 2013 ambulance, UHP, and 2003 Ford F-250 to be sold separately on Wisconsin surplus.
So back in May, requested to sell that ultra-high pressure truck together on the auction site. So we had it up on the site for about 14 days. I requested a minimum bid of $15,000. The UHP system itself is probably worth about $19,000. $10,000 was the highest bid. Actually, the auction site put in a bid for $11,000 just to secure it, and nobody else bid above that. So we did not sell it. So what I'm proposing is that we separate the truck and the unit, sell them each separate. So I can put a $11,000 or $12,000 minimum on the unit itself, and the truck, if we get $4,000, that would be absolutely excellent. So, and then also I'm requesting to sell the 2013 ambulance, which was $4,352 right now, and then again separate the cot from that ambulance. A lot of times we've had contractors buy the ambulance and then they just turn around and sell the cot. Last time we sold the cot, I think we got almost $4,000 for it. So.
I think it's a good idea to separate that unit on the pickup truck. I really do. I know that I had brought it up when we were talking about selling it on, should we split some of that apart? I was thinking more so just because we could maybe maximize dollars. But I think that's a good idea.
What do you think that ambulance will fetch, Chief?
It's been crazy lately with, people not being able to get new ambulances, so, I mean, I've seen some $50,000 ambulance prices lately, so we should be, if somebody's really looking for one, they probably would get that up there, no problem.
What's the status on that ambulance? Like, how many what's the mileage and stuff like that on it right now?
I'd have to look, I don't even know. I'm pretty sure it's close to 70 or 80,000 miles on it. Yeah, ambulances in the past have sold for crap, just like fire trucks. I mean, for what we pay for them initially and what we get for them on a resale market. But lately, with the inability of these manufacturers to get chassis and that, the prices have been going up significantly. So almost double, I think, what we sold the last one for.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? All of this will be sold on the surplus, though, correct?
Correct. Yeah, when I talked to the lady at the auction site, I told her what my plan was, and she said, just let me know. We have all the information on the truck and the UHP. We'll split them out and get me the info on the ambo and the cot, and they'll get it up there then, so.
We're looking for a motion?
Yeah.
I'd make a motion that we approve the sale of the 2013 ambulance, UHP, and 2003 Ford F-250 to be sold separately on Wisconsin surplus.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to sell the 2013 ambulance, the UHP unit that's going to be taken off of the 2003 Ford F-250, and separately the 2003 Ford F-250, and sell on Wisconsin surplus. We did get a second, right? Yeah. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Now we have consideration of setting a date for special village board meeting related to fire department. Dates right here. No and no. So we have no days that every single person is available on the sheet. We have a sheet with 6 dates on it. And we have no days that it's all yeses. What I'd like to, or go towards the end of the month. If we give a month, that should be, we all sign up to do this, that should be enough time, unless someone's got a major trip or something, that they should be able to carve it out or take off of work or whatever, so that they can, the only other suggestion I would have is it'd be on a Saturday. We get in here in the morning and let's just do it, or wherever we have the meeting.
Is there a reason you couldn't do it like August 14th?
Well, and I think there'll be multiple meetings. In my opinion, I would think this is the beginning of, well, we had one meeting, but this is the beginning of.
We do it on a board meeting night.
Yeah, because we're all already, let's do that, because we're already off. I think that's a great idea.
I would say July 24th would be.
Chief, is 8/14 okay?
Pretty sure. That should work just fine.
The only thing that would change, if we went with that, that's a village board night, but, so we would have it before, If all of a sudden Rick, who he usually can't get here till 6:30, really asks us to have it after, I mean, we can go that route also and have it after, but we'd all be here late.
Budget type night, I'm in.
But for right now, we'll plan on having it before.
Sounds good.
So we'll plan on,
Just pick the date and I'll put the time.
14.
Make a motion that we set the date for the special board meeting related to the fire department for 8/14.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to set the date for the special board meeting related to fire department staffing, things like that. And that'll be on August 14th at a time to be decided. Most likely it'll be somewhere between the hours of 6:30 and 5. 5 to 6:30 or after the meeting on that date. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of renewal of a contract with Waukesha County for tax billing for 2024 and 2025. This is something we've been doing on a pretty ongoing basis for quite some time, where we just send our stuff to them, they add it on their bill, and all the homeowners only get one bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is, the Waukesha County does our second installment collection, July 31st. They do it for most municipalities, that's several thousand tax bills, obviously, so just continuing with them, and they just, it's nice for us, it cuts a couple thousand bills from coming up to our counter. We've done it, it predates me.
I'll make a motion to renew the contract with Waukesha County for the tax billing of 24 and 2025.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the renewal of the contract with Waukesha County for the tax billing for 2024 and 2025. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have announcements.
So, just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to everybody who helped make the Hartland Hometown Celebration go as well and successfully as it did. It was incredible to watch all of the different departments within the village work together to put on this great event. It really does take a village. Big thank you to everybody on the DPW team, particularly Dave, Leo, Tom, and all the guys that helped get everything done that needed to get done. And all of you up there who supported the event, trustees, president, they're volunteering and just helping us get where we needed to be with the monetary donations. Thank you again to all of the sponsors who helped make this happen. And I will say Jack Dulkey at JD Electric for being there on call. We had a couple hiccups that you probably wouldn't have even known about because Jack was there making sure we had the power we needed. Again, Keith Vanderschlatt from Fall Festival at St. Charles. He was supportive this entire time. And also Eric Peterson from Big Bend was answered every phone call, every email that I made to him asking, how do you do it? How do you do this? What do we need here? And what am I missing? What am I forgetting? It was, from what I can understand, very well received in the community. Everything we planned went off without a hitch. There's a lot of room to grow. There's a lot of things that we can improve. I should say the food vendors, I appreciate all those organizations that showed up and worked their butts off to put some food out to the community. And just a really fun experience and very grateful to be part of it. Now shifting into the next big thing, we've got National Night Out coming up pretty fast. That's August 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. And rolling right into the fall programming guide. So moving forward.
Good evening, everyone. Zimmerman Architects will be at the next village board meeting, the 24th of July, to present their building study. And then the hometown celebration events went well this past weekend, and we appreciate all the collaboration between all the departments. Everyone did a great job, so thank you.
Thank you.
I want to inform you that we had a tree grant study from Wisconsin DNR. So what happened is we inventoried all of our street trees. It was $28,000, and the DNR just emailed me that the check is coming for the village of Hartland for the sum of $14,266. So we'll get reimbursed for half of that tree
Awesome.
grant study. Yeah, that was good.
Not too much going on at the firehouse. We've been busy as usual, answering calls, so other than that, that's about it.
Thanks, Chief.
Just a reminder, the July 24th meeting, it starts at 5 p.m. It'll be our CIP. It'll be our CIP where we go through the next 2 years of borrowing for roads, other large items. So that has to end sharp at 6:30, and then we'll go into the village board meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to just, again, pile on to how awesome last weekend was. As a resident of the village and a family man in this village, my kids had a blast. My family had a blast. It was so much fun. The fireworks were fantastic. The celebration was fantastic. The bands were amazing. Seeing Bella Kane perform and the fireworks, kind of the start to the whole thing was just it was so fun. The parade was fantastic. It didn't hurt that it was a beautiful weekend weather-wise, so we'll definitely we'll chalk it a little bit up to that. But it was a beautiful, beautiful celebration. So to everybody, great work.
I would just echo exactly what Adam said. It was a fun weekend, and just seeing how hard DPW worked with the Park and Rec group and having the fire department there backing everything up and the officers, it was great. The DPW helped out with the SAL in getting some porta-johns over that they needed desperately for their event because of a sewer main issue. So thank you for getting that done. That was very thankful from SAL and from the American Legion, I should say. Thanks.
Enough for everything that you guys have done. It was a very awesome, people will talk about this for years. So, and good job, Sarah, all your lists and everything, that's a lot to take on. So kudos.
I was going to say something, but I still can't hear, so.
So, over the course of that weekend, typically, we'd have something going on Friday, and then we'd go into a Saturday, and there was a little bit of a lot of a lull on Saturday, and then it got hyped back up. So to see something continuing throughout the whole time with the village, even the car show was well attended. People were out and about. They just seemed really happy. It was nice to not have to worry about the weather. Obviously, now we know all we got to do is buy a tent and you'll get no rain all summer. But it was fantastic to see so many people I mean, one of the pictures I saw was actually, I think it was from a Friday or Saturday night, but I mean, it was just packed down there. But the atmosphere and the way people felt it was so cool to see so many come together. And it started with an idea, but to see it all come together with everybody's hard work, to see, Cut and Go and Cassandra's putting up, hefty donations, and all the other donations that may not have been 15,000, but all those other donations from so many different people. I mean, you guys, and I say this to, the departments, you guys knocked it out of the park. You really, Hartland was safe. It was under control. It was a good old time, but it didn't turn into anything crazy or anything stupid. It was just a lot of people that I think wanted to enjoy and have a good time and celebrate this village. So thank you so much for doing all of that. And obviously, eyes are on next year now. So I hope that we'll continue to do that. What'd you say?
Bella Kane, June 28th, 2024.
Wonderful.
Penciled in.
Good to hear. Fantastic. That's good to hear. So upcoming, because Hartland never wants to stop having fun, the Hartland Chamber of Commerce is putting on the street dance. That's coming up on the 22nd, on the street, back in the street. They're not going to be in the park, so they'll be back on the street, which was great news, I think, for a lot of people.
They need volunteers.
And they need volunteers, if anybody would like to volunteer over there. And then for the, what did I have? Oh, as you can all see, Darlene is not sitting next to me. I know we announced it, but we wish her well in her retirement. Her last day was the 7th, I believe, the 7th. So she went on to retirement to enjoy that time. She's still going to be involved in some organizations around here, but a big thanks to her for her years of service to the village of Hartland. Announcements.
Motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned.